When I was 30, I doubled my net worth from 50K to 100K. And in 5 years, my net worth was over 500K. So I not only doubled, I quintupled my, pretty sure that's the word, quintupled my net worth from 30 to 35. And so that I think is only really possible if you are really serious and intentional. It doesn't just happen coincidentally. It doesn't just happen to, happenstance like, oh, wow, look at that. I quintupled my net worth. I didn't even realize it. No, you have to be really intentional. Either you're doing something with business and entrepreneurship or you're investing, which for me is primarily the way that it happened. I really found that the biggest things were taking advantage of investment accounts, the Roth IRA. And if you don't have a copy of my book yet, quick plug, it's in my book that the Roth IRA is the GOAT of investment accounts because it has so many tax benefits, right? And so when I talk about investing, I always talk about tax advantaged investing first. And then if you want to open a regular brokerage account and start investing, that's fine. But you really, I think, really need to cover your tax advantaged basic accounts first. So that's 401k, Roth IRA or 401k or a 403b, Roth IRA or traditional IRA, 529 plan, health savings accounts. These are accounts that let you put money into them that you don't have to pay taxes either now at all, you don't have to pay taxes, or in the future, you don't have to pay taxes. So depending on what type of account and depending on what the money is for, in my case, I maxed out my 401k as often as I could. Now, when I first started out, obviously when I was in my 20s and when I had just turned 30, I couldn't really afford to max it out because the max was like 21,000, 22,000. In 2025, the maximum you can put into your 401k is $23,500. I am now in a position where I have increased my income to a point where taking $23,500 off the top and putting it into a 401k so I don't see it, that doesn't actually hurt me financially. The match from your job's 401k is free money. So it's kind of weird. It's like if your job was to say, hey, come here, let me talk to you. I think you're doing really well and we want to offer you a 5% raise. Would you say, no, actually, I'm going to go ahead and put that money in my Roth IRA first, and then I'm going to come back and then I'll let you know if I accept this raise? No, nobody's going to do that. You're going to say, yes, I accept the raise. There's no question. You want to take that extra money. That 401k match, view it as a raise. It is extra free money that you're going to get by putting in your portion. So let's say I put in $23,500, maxed out my 401k this year. My employer's 401k plan matches at 10%. So that means I get an extra $23,500 of $2,350 on top of the $23,500 that I've put in. Now, I'm talking big numbers here, obviously, because I hit that point at 35. But when I was 25 years old, I was not putting no 23,000 in a 401k. I was probably putting maybe $3,000 or $4,000 for the whole year. But that means that the company was matching me. If let's say if it was 10% match, that's $500 extra dollars. Why would I say no to 500 free extra dollars from my job? I would never do that. So first, do what you have to do to get the maximum match that you can get from your job. If they match you 5%, then put in what you have to do to get that 5%. If they match you 7%, if they match you 10%, right? Just look at the details or just call the HR person or talk to them and ask them. Once you know how much that match is, do what you got to do to get that match and then go to your Roth IRA next. If you can get to the point where you max out your Roth IRA, which for this year was $7,000, $7,000. If you max out your 401k, if you get the match for your 401k, then max out your Roth IRA, then you can go back to your 401k and keep adding more to the point that's allowed, which is the 23,500. Or you could say, I'm good with the tax advantages of the Roth IRA and my match in my 401k. Now I'm just going to go ahead and buy my own investments in a brokerage account, right? Those are your options. But I would definitely say, and I think most financial experts agree, 401k match is your first priority if you get a 401k at your job. Roth IRA is your second priority. And then either go back to the 401k and keep going or open a brokerage account and keep investing if you can afford to, right? If you got wiggle room in your budget. If I want to put $23,500 into my 401k right now, then I'm gonna try my best to find another $23,500 from somewhere else. Maybe that's from my social media sponsorships. Maybe that's from doing event hosting. Maybe that's from writing blog posts and getting paid to write blog posts. Maybe that's from book sales, right? If I can sell enough books where I can make another $20,000, well, then I'm not gonna miss the $20,000 that's sitting in my 401k that I didn't collect through my paychecks because I made it somewhere else. So I think side hustling is a huge piece of how I have been able to quintuple my net worth in the past 5 years, and more than quintuple because my net worth is over 500K now. But it is truly like, for me, when I look at where the money is, I just checked my 401k this morning. $320,000 is sitting in my 401k. $320,000. That's crazy. I would never have been able to get to a point where my net worth is over $500,000 because I would have constantly been spending the money. Let's be real. Like, we're human. And my family trips, my, vacations with my boyfriend, getting a nicer apartment. Oh, if there's money, I could always come up with a reason to spend it. Okay, we can all come up with reasons to spend money. But if I don't have access to the money because it's sitting in that 401k plan, to me, that has been a huge reason why I've been able to let that money just grow and compound in the market for years. So that has definitely been a huge piece of it. But the other piece of it is like, don't just settle for one source of income. On top of my job with my 401k, I've always had multiple other sources of income. So side hustles for sure is how it started early on. And then eventually a side business, an actual business, right? So YouTube started to become actual in-person workshops for me. Then I would charge money for those workshops, do coaching. Then I wrote my book. Now I host a podcast. And when I do speaking engagements, I'm paid really well to do those speaking engagements. So it's kind of like has now become this whole business that pays me in addition to my full-time job. If you're frustrated financially and you have just one source of income right now, you kind of got to look at your situation and go, all right, how can I create more sources of income so it's not just one? So I don't just rely on money coming at me from one place. Because let's say you lose that job, you're kind of screwed because the only place you were getting money from was that one source of income, your job. So, or even, for example, a business. So you kind of always want to not just rely on one thing to have money coming at you. In terms of my life update, definitely a lot has changed. My net worth for sure, quintupling in 5 years is kind of crazy. But I still live in Miami, which I moved here 4 years ago, and I have actually been loving it. It's not necessarily the best for me financially, which is annoying because I don't drive yet, and so I'm constantly having to take Ubers. But I do travel a lot for work and also personally, and being really close to the airport is really nice. I go up to New York quite a lot. Like, my family's still there, so I'm always going up and down from Miami to New York. And then I also travel across the country a lot. So I feel like I have a situation that is comfortable, but I know that if I wanted to really challenge myself to hit a million like very quickly, in terms of my net worth hitting a million quickly, I would have to like get serious about cutting down some of my expenses for just cost of living, because I definitely do see ways that Miami has made me like creep up on my spending a little bit here or there just because of, the Miami lifestyle. But in terms of like my budget, I'm a little bit flexible, and I'll say it's okay because there's so many things that I chose not to do. I chose not to buy a car. I chose not to have children. I chose not to spend a bunch of money on a big expensive wedding. There's certain things that I feel like as a 35-year-old woman, most women my age would have a lot of either debt or would have little savings because they're spending money on things like a wedding, a car, a kid. And so for me, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to take a lot of this money that's coming in through all of my sources of income and put that into my investment accounts to grow instead of spending it in other ways. So that's that. Obviously, everybody has different life circumstances, and we all have our own race to run and our own path to follow. But for me, that's just how the cards kind of landed, and it worked out nicely because I definitely have been able to really save, really invest aggressively. Imagine if every single 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 10-year-old started putting a little piece of their earned income into a custodial Roth IRA and letting that grow 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of investing. By the time a 10-year-old turns 30, 35 years old, they've been investing for 20, 25 years. That is huge opportunity right there. But if you don't know, right? So for me, it is in terms to making sure that everybody has opportunities. We have to learn financial literacy. We have to learn the difference between a credit union and a bank. We have to learn the difference between a debit card and a credit card. We got to understand what is going into my credit score. How do they give me a grade for my credit? Like, what goes into the score? What can I do to boost it? What do I do that actually hurts it, that I should avoid? All of these basic lessons. Investing, like, come on. Thanks everybody for joining, and hit me up on Instagram if you are not already following me there, because I definitely do check the DMs there a lot. Or you can go to my community tab on my YouTube channel and just type into the community tab, and I'll see it there. Of course, I'll see it there too. All right.